For years, I had been the kind of boyfriend who believed that love was about sacrifice, about giving your all to the person you cared for. And so, I did. I paid for everything, the rent, the groceries, her phone bills, and even the little luxuries she would ask for. I convinced myself that this was what love looked like. I wanted to be her provider, to take care of her, to be her rock. We had been together for 3 years, and though there were moments of happiness, there was always an underlying sense that something wasn't quite right. She had become distant over time, but I brushed it off, thinking that maybe it was just stress from work or personal issues. She'd always been a little more reserved, a little less affectionate, but I told myself that she had her own way of loving. I accepted it because I was deeply in love with her, and I thought, this is what real love is, loving someone even when it feels like they might not love you back the same way. It wasn't until one fateful evening that I realized just how far off I had been. I had been at work all day, as usual, and when I got home, she was sitting on the couch, her phone in her hand, seemingly distracted. As I passed by, I noticed a few messages left open on the screen, with words that immediately sent my heart into a spiral. "Can't wait to see you tonight. I missed you so much," one text read. I stood frozen for a moment. The name at the top of the message wasn't mine. It was a man's name. A man I had never heard of. I tried to remain calm, but my mind was racing. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. I asked her about it, trying to sound casual, but she froze too. There was an awkward silence, and before I could process what was happening, she quickly closed the screen and tried to change the subject. But it was too late. "Who is this?" I asked again, my voice trembling, though I tried to keep it steady. She hesitated, and that was all the answer I needed. It wasn't just some random guy. It was someone she was seeing behind my back. The realization hit me like a slap to the face. While I had been out working to provide for both of us, she had been out there sleeping with someone else. The betrayal wasn't just physical, it was emotional too. She had allowed me to believe that everything was fine while secretly distancing herself from me and finding comfort in someone else. I don't remember exactly what I said next. All I remember is the numbness that took over my entire body. I didn't cry, I didn't shout. I just stood there, staring at her, trying to comprehend the depth of the betrayal. How could she do this to me? How could she let me invest so much into a relationship that was never real for her? She didn't seem sorry. In fact, she barely seemed bothered by it. She told me it was a mistake, that she hadn't meant to hurt me, that she was confused. But nothing she said mattered. Her words were hollow, meaningless, because I knew the truth now. I had been paying for her life, for everything she had, and in return, she had been giving her body and her emotions to someone else. I didn't yell, I didn't cause a scene. Instead, I quietly walked into the bedroom, packed a few clothes into a bag, and left. I didn't tell her where I was going, I didn't even tell her goodbye. I just walked out of the door, leaving everything behind. The apartment, the memories, the love I had poured into her, all of it. Gone in an instant. The first few days after I left were a blur. I found a small, affordable apartment in a less expensive part of the city and started over. I threw myself into work, barely allowing myself to think about the relationship that had shattered in front of me. But even in my solitude, the questions haunted me. How had I been so blind? How had I failed to see the signs? Was I really that gullible, that desperate to hold on to something that wasn't real? Over time, the pain started to fade, but it never really went away. It sat there quietly in the background, always there when I was alone with my thoughts. I went out with friends, tried to distract myself, but the betrayal lingered in every corner of my mind. She had taken my love, my trust, and my devotion, and in return, she had given me lies. Then, one evening, as I was lying on my couch, my phone buzzed. It was a message from her. The message read simply, "I miss you." I stared at the screen for a moment, processing the words. Miss me? After everything that had happened? After the way she had treated me? It didn't make sense. She had moved on to someone else while I was still healing, But now that I was gone, now that she had to face life without me, she wanted me back. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I had already moved on. I had learned my worth, and it was no longer tied to her. I realized then that I didn't miss her. I didn't need her in my life anymore. I had given her all of me, and in return, I had been left with nothing. She had seen what life was like without me, but I had seen what life was like without her, and it was better. Months passed after I walked away. The void that she left in my life, the hurt, the anger, it all slowly began to fade as I focused on building myself back up. I knew I wasn't perfect, but I was becoming better, stronger, and more independent with each passing day. For the first time in years, I felt free, like I was finally in control of my own life. I kept to myself, spent time with family and friends, and started doing things I had long neglected. I picked up old hobbies, traveled to places I'd always wanted to go, and most importantly, I focused on me. It was a strange feeling, but it felt right. I had forgotten what it was like to just live for myself. But then one evening, my phone buzzed again. Another message from her. This time, it was longer, more desperate. I've been thinking about you. I miss us. I want you back. I made a mistake, and I want to make things right. I sat there reading the message, feeling a sense of disbelief wash over me. How could she be so selfish? Did she really think that a simple message, after everything she had done, could erase the hurt, the lies, and the betrayal? Did she think that because I was no longer with her, I was just waiting for her to come back into my life? The audacity of it all struck me hard. She had been living her life with someone else, probably enjoying every moment of it, while I was left in the dust, paying for everything we had shared. And now, when the excitement had faded, when her life didn't feel as complete as she had hoped, she wanted me back. She wanted me to rescue her from the mess she had made. I didn't respond. I didn't even feel angry anymore. I just felt a deep sense of pity for her. She had no idea what real love was. She had never understood that love isn't something you take for granted or use for your own benefit. Love isn't about being there when it's convenient or when things aren't going your way. Love is about honesty, respect, and genuine care for another person, even when the world isn't perfect. As the days went on, the messages from her kept coming, each one more pleading than the last. She told me how miserable she was without me, how she realized that she had taken me for granted, and how she wanted another chance to prove that she could be the person I had always hoped she'd be. But nothing changed. She was still the same person who had lied to my face, who had used me, and who had thrown away everything we had together for the thrill of something new. She wasn't sorry because she loved me. She was sorry because the reality of her life without me was harder than she had anticipated. It took a lot of self-control not to reply, not to fall for the same trap she had set for me before. But I knew better now. I knew that if I allowed myself to fall back into her arms, I would only be repeating the same cycle of pain, deceit, and disappointment. And deep down, I knew I deserved better. I continued to ignore her messages. I moved on with my life, and though the memories of her and our time together occasionally resurfaced, I didn't let them consume me. I knew I had given her every chance, and she had thrown them all away. She had chosen a life of lies and betrayal, and now it was too late. Then, one day, I received a call from her. She had moved on. She had found someone new. Someone who didn't know the history, who didn't know how she had treated me. They were happy, she said, and she wished me well. But there was something in her voice that wasn't right. It wasn't joy, it was desperation, a need for validation. She wanted to be sure that I was okay with the fact that she had replaced me, and that she hadn't truly messed up. I couldn't bring myself to hate her. I couldn't bring myself to hold on to the anger that had once been so consuming. Instead, I felt nothing. I had already closed that chapter of my life. The life she was living now was the life she had chosen. It wasn't one of my making. I had learned the hard way that some people don't change, and some relationships don't deserve a second chance. What she wanted wasn't reconciliation or love, it was the comfort of knowing she hadn't completely destroyed every piece of me. But the truth was, the more she reached out, the more I realized how far I had come. I had reclaimed my life, my dignity, and my sense of self. She had never seen the depth of what I was willing to give, nor had she ever understood the weight of the love I offered. Now, the only thing I could offer her was forgiveness, for myself. I had forgiven her, but I had also forgiven myself for staying in a relationship that didn't serve me. I was no longer the person I had been when I was with her. I was stronger, more aware of my worth, and ready to face whatever life had to offer. I never heard from her again after that. And honestly, I was okay with that. She had taught me a hard lesson, but it was a lesson I needed to learn. I realized that sometimes the best way to love yourself is by letting go of those who don't truly value you. I had been used, but I had also been reborn. Now, I was living a life I was proud of. I was no longer paying for anyone's life, and I was no longer being used. I was free, and that was all I ever needed.